Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, the nursing homes face a crisis, but first, May 17 is just upon us. Let's get into the Senate and gubernatorial primaries, and we'll do that after these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Well, we're going to get into the Senate and gubernatorial primaries, as I indicated, May 17, depending on when this show airs, is a day or so, or 3 days before May 17 election. We're delighted to have a couple of the state's leading journalists who've been covering politics for a long time. Joining me, as often is the case, is Brad Bumsted. He's the Bureau Chief of The Caucus, and John Micek. He's the Editor-in-Chief of Pennsylvania Capital Star. All right, John Micek, almost all of the news and interest in the Senate elections has focused on the Republican Senate primary. Very little news about the Democratic side. What's the difference there?
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of drama on the Senate contest, Terry, mostly because there's no fluidity to it whatsoever. Right. John Fetterman, the Democratic Lieutenant Governor, is, depending on what polls you look at, 20, 30 points up in first place. According to the Real Clear Politics polling average, he's raising gobs of cash. Right. And at this point, it looks like his race to lose. The Republican field, on the other hand, still very fluid. It's what looks like now a three-way race between Trump-endorsed Mehmet Oz, venture capitalist David McCormick from late of Bloomsburg, and Kathy Barnett, a conservative influencer from Montgomery County, who has surged in these last days of the race and effectively made it a dead heat. Yeah.
Now, you've weighed in on this with Kathy Barnett, right? Take it.
Well, the TV ads by McCormick and Oz just bashing each other. Right. Some of the toughest ads I've seen in all the years I've been in politics. When you do negative ads, what that does is drive your own negatives up too. Sure. And it's created this opportunity for someone else to step in. And that's been known for some time that it could happen, but no one suspected that it would be Kathy Barnett, who just vaulted over the last 2 weeks to the point where she is even virtually, at least in a statistical tie. And it's so much so that you now have the dark money groups and the campaigns out going through her record and every statement. She had not been vetted particularly well because they didn't think she could win. Right. And now we may see some things over the weekend that surprise you about Kathy Barnett. But in fact, people say there's stuff there that may be embarrassing or whatever.
Bring it up, but she also has a relationship with a guy named Mastriano, correct?
She does, and that's helped her probably as much as anything. Is they have a tie together philosophically, and their loyalty to Trump. They've campaigned together, they've endorsed each other, and Mastriano voters tend to be Barnett voters. Right. And that's helped her a lot, as Mastriano has also risen in the polls.
Yeah. Okay, on the, I'll tell you, this has turned out to be really, really fascinating. I mean, the campaign signs, the road signs that you see, the house signs that you see, literally link Barnett and Mastriano together.
Yeah, I mean,
have you ever seen that? I don't remember seeing that before.
I mean, this is a cycle, Terry, I think, where we can take what was left of the rule book and tear it up and just throw it away. I should explain for the purposes of your viewers here, we're talking about Doug Mastriano, Republican state senator from Franklin County, currently the GOP
front runner. Well,
leading the GOP pack. I hesitate to use the front runner, leading the GOP primary pack heading into Tuesday's election. I mean, it's as Brad said a moment ago, these two have joined arms and they're ideologically compatible and are sort of running together.
Yeah, it looks like. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's like it's governor, lieutenant governor candidate with the signs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rarely do you see governor of U.S. Senate team together like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Cool. And this is going to be the most costly, expensive U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania history.
It is, and that's not due to Kathy Barnett. She spent little money,
I know.
$127,000 on ads as of last week, whereas it's 12 and 11 million each between Oz and McCormick, respectively.
And that's not include the outside money.
Yeah, something like 14 million in dark money as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I read a figure like $60 million. I mean,
Now she did get a boost where the Club for Growth, ironically,
Right.
Formerly headed by Pat Toomey, who became a U.S. Senator in Pennsylvania, and who is viewed by the Trump and Barnett and Mastriano types as a rhino, right?
Republican in name only.
Club for Growth, has paid $2 million to reserve ad space for Barnett over the final weekend. So she will have money.
Yeah. Final word before we go to a break. Any predictions? I mean, you have to.
I got out of the prediction business in 2016,
I know.
Terry. This race is incredibly fluid. The top three are within the margin right now. We're going to see what happens over the weekend.
All right, when we come back, the primary, we don't have to talk about the Democratic primary, right, for governor, because Josh Shapiro is running alone, but we've got the hot race, 9 people running for the governorship on the Republican side. We'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
All right, Brad Bumsted. Josh Shapiro is sitting back. He's actually involved in this. We can talk about that. But 9 Republican candidates. And talk about Doug Mastriano first.
Well, Doug Mastriano is a state senator from Franklin County, a retired colonel. He's a lifetime Army officer. And he sort of came out of nowhere, and people didn't give him much chance. But he has this tie to the Trump base, and that's constantly kept him afloat through this whole thing. And the thing is, with polling on Trump voters, you never know how accurate it is because they don't like pollsters, they don't talk to them, and you don't get a good read. But all of a sudden, as it gets closer to the election, he shoots up from 12-15%, close to 30 in one recent poll, like he's running away with it. Well, what really set the Republicans off, the Republican establishment, who really fear Mastriano, feeling he's too extreme and could sink the Republican ticket, was an ad put on by Democrat Josh Shapiro,
right,
which appeared to tout Mastriano's ties to Trump and how close they were and what they've done together, and a win for Mastriano is a win for Trump. It's like anybody who sees that think, wow, Mastriano finally got money, but it's not. It's Josh Shapiro money. Mastriano, a lot of people believe that Shapiro was trying to pick his opponent, the one he would most want to run against.
Right.
But the expression goes, be careful what you wish for.
All right, let's talk about the Republican establishment. Not exactly wild about the front runner, Doug Mastriano, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Mastriano is one person who's tried to claim the Trumpian mantle. Jake Corman, the Republican Senate president, has tried to. Some of the other candidates have also tried to position themselves. The former president has stayed, unlike the Senate race, where that's going to be a test of the former president's endorsement, he has stayed out of the governor's race, and it looks like he's not going to get, at this very late stage, not going to get involved at all. But yeah, Republicans are genuinely worried that Mastriano, who has trafficked in baseless claims of election fraud, who was at the forefront of the reopening movement at the height of the pandemic, is too extreme to win statewide. As Brad said a moment ago, Josh Shapiro is apparently trying to drag him across the finish line. That always is fraught. Democrats tried that with Donald Trump in 2016, and it came back to bite them. So it is a strategy that is not without its risks. But conversely, Shapiro trying to say that Mastriano is too Trumpy is kind of a badge. He's worn that as a badge of honor. There's enough of the Republican base who sees that also as a badge of honor and not something to stay away from. And so at this late stage, whether establishment Republicans can do anything remains to be seen.
But the establishment wants some of the top tier candidates to drop out and vote for one of the other candidates, former Congressman and Mayor of Hazleton, Lou Barletta.
Yes, and this talk has been going on for months, certainly for weeks, many weeks, that we've got to do something about this. But it was the Shapiro ad, in my opinion, that sparked the Republicans to say, hey, look at this. He's out there advertising now. We got to do something about this. So what they tried to do was get some of the top candidates in the polls under Mastriano to drop out so that Lou Barletta, former congressman, who's usually been in second place or thereabouts, could be the person who knocks off Mastriano. In fact, by the time your viewers see this, it won't be 9 candidates, it'll be 8, because Senator Jake Corman
and maybe some others will drop out.
is dropping out. Now, Corman was near the bottom. He had an average of 3.7 in the percentage points in the last 3 polls. Where does that get you? I'm not sure. They're looking for what they wanted was a bunch of people, and then that would create this pool of votes that Barletta could tap.
All right, great update. We're out of time. All right, we're going to talk about nursing homes. They face a very serious crisis, and we'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Welcome back. Well, nursing homes face a crisis. 80,000 individuals in Pennsylvania's nursing homes. Joining me to chat about that is Zach Shamberg. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. All right, let's start out with 80,000 people. That's a city. That's larger than many cities in our state. And and nursing homes face a workforce crisis.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And thanks for having me back on, Terry, especially right now, given that there is this crisis. At the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, we represent long-term care in Pennsylvania. It's not just nursing homes, but it's personal care and assisted living as well. In addition to representing the providers, we represent those workers and those residents in long-term care. And it's those men and women who have been at the forefront of the COVID-19 pandemic for more than 2 years. And that has certainly taken its toll. And it has taken its toll on the workforce. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have lost in long-term care nearly 20% of our available workforce. And what has that meant to long-term care? It means that there is a subsequent access to care crisis now, where providers are quite literally being forced to turn away vulnerable senior citizens in need of care. That's a very alarming trend in one of the oldest states in terms of population in the entire country.
Right, and you're also facilities are closing because of several concerns. What are those concerns?
Well, at the end of the day, it's not just workforce, but it's funding. It's Medicaid reimbursement, and each and every time that I've been with you on this show, we've talked about Medicaid reimbursement and the need for a sustainable investment in long-term care. You said it. This is what we've been warning about for years. Without a sustainable investment, nursing homes won't just change ownership. There won't just be reorganizations or sales. There will be closures. And a few weeks ago, unfortunately, we were down in Warrenton, Bucks County, to announce that a PHCA member would be closing its doors forever. Nearly 60 residents depended on ventilator care, plus nearly 100 staff. would have to find somewhere else to go and to work. Where do they go right now?
Yeah, and the other point about it is that almost everyone who's watching this show has, people in their immediate family or certainly relatives who've been admitted to it, spent time in a nursing home. And when you reach a certain point, it's very difficult to care for someone at home because, in your home you don't have the 24-hour services that they do, plus the expertise to maintain those services.
That's exactly right. And again, in Pennsylvania, one of the oldest states in terms of population in the entire country, where our fastest growing demographic is age 85 and older. And we're roughly 2 to 3 years away from when the baby boomers will age into that demographic most in need of long-term care. To your point, if nursing homes are closing today, how do we honor that promise to care for our seniors in the years to come?
So you have more people who want in, and you face a staffing shortage.
And not only that, providers are turning away seniors. There are empty beds across Pennsylvania in nursing homes that cannot be filled.
Wow.
We have seniors traveling further than ever just to find care. That is an alarming trend today.
Well, you make a great point about the elderly population, and we also are pretty big geographically. People tend to forget that, and we're complex demographically as well as geographically.
That's exactly right. And again, we don't want to be in a situation where we have vulnerable senior citizens traveling 30, 40, 50, 100 miles just to find nursing home care.
Wow.
That's unacceptable.
No. Well, look, let's run to a break and we come back. You have a program and it's called Who Will Care? Do I got that right?
WhoWillCarePA.com.
All right, I want to talk about that, and we'll do that following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
All right, we're talking about nursing homes face a crisis, and it's a significant issue in the state given the elderly age of our population and nursing homes. All right, Zach, let's talk about Who Will Care.
Yeah, it's WhoWillCarePA.com, and really that is a one-stop shop for Pennsylvanians all throughout the state. You can go to WhoWillCarePA.com and send a message to your representative, your state senator.
But not to interrupt you, but there's information in there explaining what the Who Will Care program is about.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And really, Who Will Care represents two questions that we've asked for the better part of the last year. One is, if there are no workers, and if nursing homes continue to close, who will care for our most vulnerable population? Where will they go? But it's also a question for our elected leaders, our state officials, the Wolf administration. If nursing homes close, if there are no workers, if we cannot support our senior population, who in Harrisburg will care and who will step up to do something about it and to fix this critical issue?
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the specifics of it, about the Medicaid funding, about, the specifics of your needs.
Yeah, it is not hyperbole, Terry, to say that this year's state budget, which as you know is due on June 30th, could dictate the future of long-term care and nursing home care in Pennsylvania. 2 years ago in 2020, long-term care was a priority when it came to the CARES Act federal stimulus dollars. Right. Last year, long-term care was a priority when it came to the American Rescue Plan, or the ARP, federal stimulus dollars. But those were one-time payments, and they were tied exclusively to COVID-related expenses. Yeah. At the end of the day, if providers want to invest in their workers and raise wages, they want to recruit more workers to the front lines, they want to meet higher operational costs, that will take recurring funding and a recurring investment. That means Medicaid reimbursement, and that means this year's state budget.
I want you to go on, but let me make this statement.
Yeah.
I think the Wolf administration announced in the first quarter of this year a record in terms of the revenues that they took in, plus billions of dollars in federal monies that are sitting in the Treasury. So you have to I get a big smile, and you have to be somewhat optimistic that the funding is there anyway to assist you.
The funding is there, but we need our elected officials, we need our state leaders, and we need the Wolf administration to step up and recognize that it is not just one crisis affecting our vulnerable population and our senior citizens. It is multiple crises in long-term care. Now is the time, this is the year to invest and to ensure that we are going to be able to keep our promise and to continue caring for our vulnerable residents, not just today or tomorrow, but in the years to come.
Yeah. Well, seniors and adults with disabilities, I mean, if they don't go to you, where is it that they can go? I mean, that's the problem. As I indicated before, you can't provide this care in a home. And we're talking about 80,000 people. Now, it's not just a few people, it's many people, and your nursing homes are scattered all over the state.
That's exactly right. And we saw this take place in January, February, and March of this year, where hospitals had reached capacity because they could not send their patients or their residents to long-term care facilities. Again, because there is a workforce crisis and because there is an access to care crisis. In the case of the nursing home in Warrington that is closing, those folks are being sent out of state because we don't have enough available ventilator care.
Yeah, I was going to get into that with you. So get into that in greater detail. There are folks, because of their health situation, require ventilator care.
That's exactly right. And again, there is a shortage of ventilator beds in Pennsylvania in our nursing homes. And that means that residents are being forced to travel hours, hundreds of miles, just to receive the care that they need in states like New Jersey or Ohio. It shouldn't be that way, given that we have available workers, we've got available facilities, but we just can't care for those seniors and those residents who need it most. That's a crisis.
No, and here's something that you've written, that there's a survey that half of the nursing home respondents turned away on average 20 seniors or adults with disabilities in need of nursing care simply because providers did not have enough staff to care for more residents to get to that point. And so this is not just a crisis now, it's a crisis that's only going to grow worse if the funding isn't increased.
That's exactly right. And again, we have warned about sales, we've warned about reorganizations, changes of ownership, we've warned about an access to care crisis. We will see nursing homes close if there is not a substantial investment in this year's state budget. Now is the time.
Final question. How optimistic are you about receiving the aid that you need from the state?
We will continue to work with the legislature, with the Wolf administration every single day, and we will not stop until we get that support.
Do you have any indication at this point, or remember, we're talking about getting this done June 30, and here we are, in the middle of May, so there's not a lot of time left.
No, much like your previous guests with the primary, there is a lot still to do just in the next few weeks with the state budget.
All right, well, thanks for coming in, and we'll have you back, and you'll give us an update.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, you stay well.